and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo, and it's great to be on Channel's Book Club. Once again, this is a show where we discuss all things books, and we've got an interesting one for you this week. You know, when a senior officer of the Nigerian Air Force writes a book, you want to pay attention to that book. And our guest for today is just that kind of author, a senior member of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Vice Marshal to be precise. And he's written a book that is compelling, one that really draws our attention to a very important topic, a very important subject that the government, private sector organizations, individuals just have to pay attention to. What is happening to the hundreds of thousands of displaced persons in Nigeria? When wars happen, all these insurgency problems, when disasters happen, flooding and all sorts of things, people get displaced from their homes. So many people, and it's such a traumatic, painful, difficult experience. What happens to the displaced? How do we manage the displaced better? How do we take care of our displaced persons? Well, this is a subject that our guest for today has dealt with in his new book, and it's one that is compelling. Let's get to meet with him and enjoy the conversation.
Sampson Eyekosi is a senior officer in the Nigerian Air Force, currently serving as an Air Vice Marshal. Eyekosi has a master's degree in strategic studies from the University of Ibadan and defense studies from Bangladesh University of Professionals. He has contributed in several international arenas, including the UN, AU, ECOWAS, and was a peacekeeper in the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Eyekosi is currently the Director of Peace Support Operations at the Nigerian Air Force Headquarters in Abuja. He joins Channel's Book Club to discuss his book, Managing the Displaced.
AVM Eyekosi, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you very much.
Did I pronounce your name well?
Eyekosi.
Eyekosi. I'm working hard on pronunciation of our names. So pass mark for me.
No bad.
Well, nice to have you on Channel's Book
Thank
Club.
you
It's
very
great
much.
to have you here.
Nice to meet you too.
And well done, all the work you are doing, serving our country. Well done to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. So, congrats. Managing the Displaced, a guide for effective management of displaced persons during emergencies. We'll come back to this book, but let me just ask you a very general question. Your life as a military officer brought you to this point. What has that life been like? What's it like to be in the Air Force?
Well, it's a calling to serve your country. You have a lot of restrictions. You cannot do a lot of things you would have wanted to do. And sometimes you may not have maximized your potentials, especially those who know what we could do from secondary school. But somebody has to do it. And here we are. We've spent decades, about 3 decades now. 3
decades?
Yes, came in quite early. And so far so good. It has been high, low, ups, downs. But by and large, it has been more positives.
More positives. Is it an experience that you've enjoyed largely?
Yes, I'll say so. I'll say so.
So will you say to the young guys out there, come and join us?
Yeah, sure. It's much better now than before. Things are much improved than when we started. I, for one, have enjoyed merit without necessarily knowing anybody. Of course, the grace of God, but you play your own part. You're hardworking. You produce results. You are creative, even within allowed spaces. You suggest ideas. You earn the respect of your superiors, your colleagues, your junior subordinates, and give or take. I think I'm described as one who has had a real opportunity to grow normally.
Through the ranks.
Through the ranks. Privileged to be promoted as at when due. Privileged to go for several trainings, both locally and out of the country. Privileged to serve as a peacekeeper and worked with the UN, with the AU and ECOWAS. It's not very common, so I think I'm privileged in that sense.
Well done, sir. Why did you pick the Air Force rather than the Army or the Navy? Why? Or was it circumstantial?
I've always wanted to fly. Flying, and I wanted to go to space. From
Oh,
childhood,
really?
my dad worked in the airport, civil
Oh.
aviation. For some reasons, I didn't eventually fly.
Oh,
And
you didn't fly?
I didn't fly full time. I only did a little. Then I had to come do other things on the ground, supporting flying operations.
All that leading to this point where you became an author. Uh, can you share why? What inspired you to write this?
Before the inspiration, I have a flair of writing. I remember in primary school, secondary school, always getting top best student in English language, writing, literature. So all the while, that writing passion had always been. Unfortunately, all the attempts before now, I will write some manuscripts, I'll get choked up in other things, I'll keep it
Dump
aside.
it somewhere.
I think I did like 2 or 3 attempts. And then in recent times, I do lectures. I'm a resource person for military training institutions, especially higher levels.
Okay.
The skills, the knowledge, the trainings you had, you impart it to your younger ones, your subordinates coming up. So sometimes when I do presentations, my slides are like almost 200 slides to explain a topic of like 1 hour. And people say, why not turn it into a book? And I say, okay. So there were some that has to do with logistics, that has to do with asymmetric warfare, which are areas that I'm also specialized in. And I've just not had the time to put it in a book proper. But this one, that build-up, last year with the floods in Mokwa, that was really the trigger. I saw so much people not being cared for enough. They were suffering, and the response was not, there was some effort, but perhaps it could be better. It takes a lot. And maybe because it was flash floods, it was sudden, our level of preparedness was not exactly where it should be. The various agencies, they made efforts at the national level, at the state level, but watching reports on TV, I could see gaps. I could see people, you could just take care of them for a few days, maybe a week. No long-term plan, no structured, it wasn't structured enough. It's not as if there was nothing, but I think as a neutral party watching, and I asked myself, how can I contribute my part? I couldn't find a structure that could take something I have to support them. So that was the main inspiration, the main trigger that said, okay, don't just sit back and complain and blame.
Do something.
Do something. So this is my effort to do something, to articulate it such that everybody involved, the stakeholders in managing displaced people, virtually everybody has a role, from the government to agencies, to religious bodies, to market women, various organizations, the media. Everybody has a role to play, and that's what I try to articulate. Let's have a structure that brings everybody and make it clear that this thing I'm giving will eventually get to the end user that requires it, and it will alleviate their lives, to take them away from suffering. Then post-conflict recovery. That's also one area that we generally don't seem to do well enough. I try to highlight some key things, basic things that we should deliberately put. Somebody is put in charge, somebody is giving resources, somebody is supervised through a structure, and you report back. Not just collecting resources, money, relief materials, and how it goes. Nobody really cares to follow up enough.
What's your story, your history with displaced persons?
Okay.
Yeah, what led to?
I think what struck me most, of course, I grew up in the north in Kaduna. Displacement, I'm from the south, from the Niger Delta. I didn't really grow up there. So it happens, but I didn't really experience it. For me, the first experience of displacement was in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2006, 2007 as a peacekeeper. There I saw war in real life. Militants, rebels, they come sack a community, they push them away, they displace them from their farms, from their livelihood, they rape women and children. It's horrible. And they struggle to get their lives back. They become beggars, they have no hope for tomorrow, and it's not something you really want. It's heart-wrenching, it's not the best. So people are displaced, whatever place in the country, they can't go back, the fear of their lives. Nobody really shows enough love and care for them. And I think sometimes, in fact, most times, it's not really their fault. and the government has a limitation they can do, resources, time, human resource. It's not a government thing alone. Everybody must play a part.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be a guide to help bring everybody together. If you follow this, it can help bring everybody, corporate worlds, CSR, everybody.
A one-stop
Yes.
material
That guides everybody on how to work
yeah.
together. Security and everybody.
Fantastic, fantastic, AVM, fantastic. Okay, let's dive in. Managing the displaced, a guide for effective management of displaced persons during emergencies. And I like your cover.
Thank you.
Floods, landslides, tsunamis, earthquakes, wild bushfires, epidemics, windstorms, pandemics, communal and ethnic crises. These are all things that can lead to displacement of people.
Whether within Nigeria or outside Nigeria.
Okay. Now, look at your contents. Understanding displacement and its context. You wrote here the reality of displacement, sociocultural and political contexts, their dire situation. Here, you lay the foundation in terms of helping us understand what displacement is all about. Can you just speak to that briefly?
Okay. I try not to make it too academic so that it's not too bulky, easy to read, and I didn't want to follow typical way. You take one definition, you compare another, you synthesize and all that. I didn't want to. I just tried to make it as simple as possible. People have their natural habitats, their livelihoods. Something comes up, any of these or something else that takes them out. They are now homeless. They cannot fend for themselves. They are helpless. They are traumatized. So they are still part of us. We are comfortable in our houses, in our barracks, and various places where we stay. We cannot care less. Yes, there are government agencies and all that, social welfare, if they really exist as such, especially at the grassroots level, which there are always gaps there. I went on ground. I did field research work, and I saw it in reality in Bama, in Maiduguri, in Kefi. These were the places I went to physically in Yelwata. I also went there and saw something. So
yeah, I saw those pictures of yours somewhere at the back there.
Yes. They can't even go to farm if you were farmers. It's that bad. They cannot do maybe buying and selling. So they are helpless. They don't know what tomorrow brings. And even when they give them aid, how long does it last? How well? I remember there was a camp, everywhere was dark. Psychologically alone, some were not well. They had basic health care. It wasn't the best. And that's what inspired some of the quotes I put at the back. We may come to that later. But the first chapter and subsequent chapters try to make it as simple as possible so that anybody with good understanding that reads it, nothing too technical, just explains it in basic terms. It's supposed to be what persons at various levels can pick. Perhaps you find yourself accidentally being put in charge of displaced persons. For example, during my research, I met some officers that displaced people had to come close to the barracks or within the barracks for them to stay. They didn't have any formal training of how to manage people in that context, so they just used their experience. The way we run NYSC camps and put a camp commandant, maybe a major, and you give him task. These are schedules of activity. So something similar. In the context of IDPs, refugees, depending on the context.
AVM, something tells me that we should get down to even explaining who a displaced person is.
Okay.
Yeah, we could assume that. Yes. So basically, we are talking about people who have experienced one form of disaster or another. Man-made or natural. Man-made or natural, yes. And are suddenly homeless.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay,
so they are uprooted from their usual place of abode. Most times, some don't even have a very decent place. Now you now take them away from that.
They've lost everything.
Lost everything. Food, clothing, shelter. None. They're under the elements. They sleep in virtually inhuman places. You see them like, do people really live in this place? And even when the government provides sometimes, it's sometimes not enough.
I'm looking at your page 5 there. Internally displaced persons, IDPs, refugees, international border, illustrative diagram depicting internally displaced persons within a country and refugees displaced into another country to stay in refugee camps. Interesting. Now, chapter 2, you then ask us to be more proactive.
Correct.
When it comes to disaster management. The word that caught me there is proactive.
Good.
And you explain here that we tend to be reactive. It has happened. So what do we do? Rather than proactive, how do we prevent this from happening?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying here?
Correct, very correct. It has happened. NIMET has made predictions, for example, that there will be floods. And so what? How are we as a local government, a council, a state, preparing for it? If the water level rises above a certain level, where do we deploy to?
Where are we more reactive rather than proactive? The cultural thing.
I think it's more of culture. We need to shift
from that
mindset and go beyond just talking. And I see some states, for example, Borno State, make some good efforts. It's quite commendable. Sometimes we look down on these predictions. No, it won't happen. But over time, I think somewhere in the book, we saw a trend.
Yeah.
It will always happen, especially low-lying states, the Delta region. So agencies that are put in charge, especially specific about the local government levels. It's like you say, local government doesn't really exist as such functionally. These are some of their responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's not about even the resources. I think the resources are there, but what do you do with it? What do you want to do? What is your plan? And I try to put some planning somewhere in the book too.
Yeah.
What are the, like a template that you should have? Basic things, accommodation, feeding, medicine, security. These are things that you must sit down first and say, if this happens, how many people are you looking at? If there's a displacement, who are those likely to be displaced? For how long do you keep them?
Your book is a real manual. I hope the right people are getting copies. I'm sure you are working to make sure.
So we worked with them to put it together, so we'll still continue to work with them, build capacity, create awareness.
Yeah.
And I see at the national level, they do some simulation sometimes, but it should still go beyond that. It's a good effort. You can still do more. Simulate if this happens, you get first responders, you get what we call disaster response units in every geolocation.
Yeah.
I attended a conference where it was told that the militaries of the world, as we see more effects of climate change, they should be prepared for response to emergencies rather than country A fighting country B. That likelihood could still be, but the effects of climate change, natural disasters, floods and all that, the military should be trained and equipped to be able to respond as first responders, aside any other person, because they are disciplined, they have regimentation, they have specialized equipment. For example, air power in humanitarian operations, you need to do surveillance if there's floods or if people are displaced to know where they are. You need to be able to airlift relief materials, air mobility. So there are various rules of air power that could also be applied even in the context of humanitarian and helping displaced people.
Great. In chapter 3, you speak about emergency management structures and strategies. I think this is a very interesting place where this is a chapter that agencies and co will find very useful. Is that correct?
That's true, because in everything, there must be a structure. Just like a football team, sports, if you don't have a structure, how are we playing this match? Whatever formation you want to take. Same thing in this. Are we putting more effort here? Are we putting more effort there? From the national to the subnational to the sub-sub.
Yeah. One gets the impression that we are very weak, institutionally speaking, when it comes to responding to disasters. Why is that so? Is that because there has not been enough investments? Is that because, again, back to the culture thing, do we generally have a culture that does not value life as much as we ought to? But what is the reason for that? Because we've been to countries where disasters happen everywhere. The difference is how they respond, or how they prepare for them before they even happen.
Correct. Yeah, so I think we can't keep complaining. We must make efforts to change. Change begins with us. We see other people do it. I remember floods in China, earthquakes in China. Within 24 hours, they fixed it. How did it happen? Is there anything we can learn from it? In fact, I wanted to make reference to it, but I left it out in this particular one. But there were lots to learn.
Yeah.
Nigerians, we can do a lot. It's just that willpower. A little bit of checks and balance, somebody supervising, somebody making sure that if you get resources, take for example from the private sector, maybe earth moving equipment, and other specialized equipment, if they are contributing it, how well do we appreciate them? How well do we bring a planned structure that this is the likelihood of this happening, bring stakeholders together? Everything boils down to money at some point. But money is not everything. Money is key.
Yeah.
But what is the plan? Who are those involved? Have you identified them? Have we brought them together? What structure, what strategy are we doing? What I see is that at the national level, a lot is being done, but I see the gaps are usually at the states and sub-subnational, local government level. There are gaps there. They need to build capacity. They need to know what to do. They need to practice it before it happens. Even if you're not keeping them in one place, but you have an arrangement with, say, a construction company, with a boat company, with logistics company, have that arrangement first. They should talk. It's not when the calamity has happened, you're now going to look for who's the person that can provide this service, medical service, fire service. You must have brought them together, rehearse them, so that when it happens eventually, it's not the first time I am meeting you, to know that your role is to do media publicity, this person's role is to do advocacy, this person's to all the various roles. You have rehearsed it once, twice, maybe once or twice a year or quarterly, depends on the context, but somebody has to take that lead to bring everybody together.
Well, we've got to round up now, AVM, so I would like you to leave us with a word, like some of these bullet points you were dropping in the final chapter. Which one stands out for you? Which one would you like to leave viewers with?
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity once again. For me, disasters will always happen. We may be seeing much more at this period of the end of the world. Those of us who are not affected shouldn't just sit back and pity them. Oh, they are suffering. And say, oh, there's a government that should do everything. The government will make efforts, but the government cannot do everything. While the government makes efforts being responsible socially to the citizenry, we others, whether military, whether media, whether with different categories of society, we must be willing to give a helping hand. And this helping hand should be done in a more structured way so that we can maximize all the support. It can also help to unify us together, that when there's a problem, there's a challenge, there's a disaster, an emergency, we all rally around ourselves to help each other out of our difficulties, to recover, to resettle and move on. That way we harness our whole abilities. We enhance our national security and also national development as much as possible.
AVM, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and going through this very important topic, very important subject. And it's inspiring to see a military officer like yourself embarking on a project like this.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thought-provoking one there from AVM Sampson Eyekosi. Very thought-provoking. We really need to think about this issue of how to manage our displaced persons in the country. It's such an important subject. And I hope that, well, it's all of us really, but there are particular organizations and leaders and institutions that really need this message much more than others. But it's something all of us need, really. What a conversation. What a conversation. Let's get your thoughts, please. Share with us through any of our social media platforms. What do you think about what he has shared with us and his book. Get a copy of the book, read it, and send us your thoughts. We will love to hear your thoughts, to get your feedback on this, and hopefully it will spark a national conversation. This is where we have to end it today. As always, we'll be delighted to get more of your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumu. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.